And we are recording. It's Dr. Jerome Corsi on Thursday, May 2nd, 2024 at 10:35 a.m. Eastern Time. You were on here last week to discuss your book, Final Analysis about the JFK assassination, the link to which is in the description. But towards the end of the show last week, you started kind of getting into how as eventful and as terrifying as the JFK assassination is, it really was just it's a symptom. It was a semi-important block in the pyramid of this control, which has been going on since the dawn of time, and it's been crystallizing more and more probably in the last century or so. And what that is it's a demonic, technologically elite, financially omnipotent, militarily ruthless regime bent on not just total control, but total dehumanization. They're against the carbon cycle. They're against human reproduction. They're against the nuclear family. It is you cannot deny whether you're religious or not that this is by definition satanic. It is the inversion of all things good. And we were talking before this, and you said God wins. Then you said God actually has already won. It's not that he wins. And Dr. Corsi and I went back and forth, and we kind of agreed on the analogy that right now this is a haunted house and your parents are taking you and you're like 5 years old. It's not that, at first you might have the comforting thought, you go, my parents are going to win. But as it might dawn on you more, you go, no, your parents already won. This is all an illusion. It's just nothing's going to hurt you. It's your dad. Imagine if a guy in a zombie costume came up and actually physically hurt your kid. The dad would knock his teeth out. Your parents are there and it's fine. It's over. It's a controlled setting. Now, that doesn't make it any less scary. That doesn't make the pain any less real. But so then what is the purpose of the haunted house? It's clearly not fun. No, but it is good for growing. You build up a tolerance to these things. You get through it on the other end and you're 5 years old and you're like, I survived that. I can do anything. And again, doesn't make the pain any less real, but this is a haunted house. God's already won. It's not that he's going to win. And the devil is as impotent as a guy in a zombie costume running up to you. He's allowed to scare you. If he touches you, your dad's gonna shoot him. So that's kind of the vibe I get. And if you look closely, God is still performing miracles. He's still answering prayers. But, with the good of free will comes the bad. You do have to choose. You have to see all of this. And it's terrifying. It is admittedly terrifying. But guys, please go into the description. Please go grab his latest book. And he's got a new book coming out, which we can get into. But Dr. Corsi, let's pick up from where we were last week when you kind of first brought into the idea of not the idea, but the theme that there is a technocratically, militarily, financially omnipotent group of demons really destroying the playground that is Earth.
Well, I want to pick up on your image, which is a very good one. It's a little bit like Scooby Doo.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you got this very scary criminal that they're all after, and then they finally catch him and they unmask him.
Yeah.
It's somebody who is really not very scary at all. It never was, and it was all just an illusion. But so I think the Kennedy assassination is important because it was a seminal event. This was the deep state, or what I'm increasingly wanting to call the counter state, coming out in open and saying, we're in charge. We're in charge. And by the way, you're not in charge. So they were openly defying all that is good, all that is holy. They were killing a duly elected president of the United States in broad daylight in Dallas with a crossfire, and the book shows 2 shots to the front, and it's forensically proven. What makes this book unique and I think game-changing is that the forensic science makes it undeniable that Jack Kennedy was shot twice from the front. So this is a coup d'etat. Now, the modus operandi here, the nature of the way the Kennedy assassination was committed, it both has a history and a future. So if you go back to, for instance, 1950s, the CIA was conducting assassinations and coups d'etats. One of the most famous examples I read about it in my first book, who really killed Kennedy, was the Guatemala United Fruit. And they had, banana company that, by the way, Alan Dulles had shares in. that was had a head of state that was going to return a lot of the banana company's land to the people. And of course, the banana company declared that he was socialist communist, and they wanted to get rid of him. And the CIA, led with Howard Hunt being the major operative, who shows up again in Watergate, whose deathbed confession says he was at the Kennedy assassination and played a role in that. So they stage a fake insurrection by a group of what they say are Guatemalan freedom fighters or rebels, but in reality, they're hired hands that the CIA has trained, in Nicaragua to come into Guatemala. And this whole thing is staged, and the people fall for it. And the head of state has to leave. He resigns to get in who they want. They don't like the guy they bring in. The CIA, it doesn't like them. It was all staged. Edward Bernays played a role in public relations. I knew Edward Bernays when I was young, in my 20s. I spent a lot of time with him. And he was head of public relations. Actually, I think he was the one who really took his first book in 1933, Propaganda, and translated that. By the end of his career, propaganda had become public relations.
Mm.
And that's a fundamental point about Edward Bernays. He was brilliant guy, but he knew that what he had learned and taught could be used for either good or evil. And Goebbels had wanted him to come to Germany to help Hitler rise. Of course, Edward Bernays was Jewish, so he declined. But the point is, let's just take another common example today, one that's really current. Ukraine, the war in Ukraine. Okay, so the war in Ukraine gets started in around 2012, 2013. Hillary Clinton's Secretary of State, and she begins taking money from a oligarch named Pinochet from Ukraine. They put the money into the Clinton Foundation. She's using her private email server to conduct Clinton Foundation business. And Bill Clinton's running the foundation, so they got a game on of stealing money, which they're never caught on, because, of course, they're part of the game. They're part of the in-group. They're part of the crime. And then 2014, the State Department, which is filled with globalists, since the very beginning when John Foster Dulles was Secretary of State and his brother Alan Dulles was head of the CIA under Eisenhower, they were globalists. The two Dulles brothers, together with Prescott Bush, father of George H.W. Bush, and Brown Brothers Harriman. Harriman was the railroad magnate in the 1800s. They were financing Hitler. And Prescott Bush was running a Nazi bank in the United States called Union Bank that FDR shut down after Pearl Harbor. I actually went and found the New York Times piece the day that he shut it down. It was reported. So this clique here and this group pulling together the State Department and the CIA decide, well, of course, since the Soviet Union, the fall of the Berlin Wall, renounced communism, so now these globalists hate the Soviet Union because they want to use communism and Marxism and cultural Maoism as their transitional state to destabilize where we are today or where we used to be, in order to destroy everything that's traditional, everything that's good, as you pointed out, and move into this new world order where their self-appointed elite, like the Nazis, and their multinational corporations interlocking so that they're directorates and shares, so it's global. It's not just Krupp Manufacturing and U.S. Steel; they're really one company. And of course, the elite now, instead of just being Nazis with all their occult symbolism, can actually put chips in themselves and become transhuman, or in Nietzsche's terms, Ubermensch, the super human beings. And with their machines, their AI, they can rule the world. They don't really need people because work is ugly, it's stupid, it's not elevating to these people. Like, this is part of the other engineering of all this evil, which was the Marcuse, Herbert Marcuse in the Frankfurt School, books like Eros and Civilization, which were popular when I was in graduate school, saying, well, we shouldn't be, we need to liberate ourselves with this uninhibited sex. So uninhibited sex is the pathway to liberation. Of course, that's very popular in the 60s, sex, drug, and rock and roll. You could sell that on campuses, and they did. So this whole but I've written the 3 books on this. I've written this trilogy, and I have yet to write the third. But the first one was this truth about energy, global warming, and climate change.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all going to look the same. They have this little yellow sticker saying, "Warning: read this at your own risk." This definitive refutation of climate change hoax theories cannot be ignored, regardless how badly the left might want to do so. And it's all subtitled "Exposing Climate Lies in an Age of Disinformation." Then I actually wrote the second volume, calling it the Great Awakening series. The second volume is on the truth about neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy. And the subtitle is "Exposing Woke Insanity in an Age of Disinformation." So we are in an age of disinformation. Let's continue with Ukraine. So Victoria Nuland, State Department, decides that she wants to move NATO to the edge of Russia, and they want to go to war with Russia. These people like perpetual war. Fuel the military-industrial complex, kill people, destabilize, cause chaos. People will run to the government, solve this problem for us. Take away this evil. We'll give you more power. That's the psychology that they are operating under. I'm calling these, the cabal, which is this self-appointed oligarchical elite. Bill Gates. Probably even Elon Musk, although he may be doing now a little bit of a counter espionage type of work. He's going to say, well, we're going to make X free to everybody. I'm still shadow banned on X. I can't get anywhere in X.
Yeah,
So,
I have an alternate account now because I got banned.
well, I have an alternate account too. They let me have an alternate, but they know it's me, so they shadow ban that.
Yeah.
Okay, so they run the Maidan rebellion. So they take this whole color revolution, which was a State Department created, a couple of guys who studying Marxism, studying anarchy, studying change, knew that they could architect in any country they wanted. If you recall, in that time in Obama's administration, this is 2014, they were going around with the Arab Spring, and they were destabilizing all the countries in North Africa. Egypt was one of their last, where they overthrew, a ruler and put in the Muslim Brotherhood to rule it. And then, so now they're going to do a color revolution, overthrowing Yanukovych, who was duly elected president of Ukraine, but he was favorable to Russia. So Ukraine is divided in half. The eastern part of Ukraine is largely Russian speaking. The western part of Ukraine is largely allied with Germany and Poland, and was in World War II Nazi, more Nazi than the Nazis. Did a lot of the dirty work of the concentration camps, getting Jews sent off to die and be killed in the concentration camps, burned to death after they were asphyxiated. So the neo-Nazis are the ones supporting the new government that comes in, which is Poroshenko. And Poroshenko begins mobilizing the Ukrainian military to go and subdue these 2 provinces in the east that are allied with Russia, Russian-speaking, Donbass and Donetsk. These 2 provinces have been independent. They weren't part of Ukraine originally. Ukraine was kind of a put-together entity at the end of World War I. And so, therefore, you got a destabilized country, and they're bringing it into NATO. But then the other thing about Ukraine is it's one of the most corrupt countries in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so money laundering is everyday business. A few oligarchs who are, in the know, paying off everybody who needs to be paid off, get to make an enormous amount of money themselves, have yachts, live a exorbitant lifestyle, and they steal money launder it. And they have this energy company called Burisma. And our State Department says, well, it would be really neat if we could get Burisma to compete with Gazprom, which is Russia, because if we could take Gazprom's market away, Russia, which has basically been characterized as a nation that is a gasoline stop, because energy, hydrocarbon fuels are the backbone of the Russian economy.
Yeah.
So they say to the Biden family, well, you guys are just right for this. Why don't you guys, Joe and your son Hunter, go on over to Ukraine? You're vice president, and Hunter can come over. He can become on the board of Burisma, and then they can pay him a lot of money and pay you a lot of money, and we'll get Congress to pass, several $billion in aid to booster the natural gas economy in the Ukraine, namely Burisma, and that money will go over there and it'll all get stolen. So it's gone, billions of dollars, and the Biden family gets the money back. Well, the Biden family can't be indicted because they're now CIA agents, operatives. They're doing this on behalf of the CIA. This is a CIA State Department plan. Okay, and it's sold to the American people that these are freedom fighters and that Putin is the KGB, is the aggressor, and he's going to invade Eastern Europe.
Freedom fighters against Russia. Where have we heard that before? The Mujahideen against the Soviet Union, and they became the Taliban. I have a running theory that in 20 years, the Azov Battalion will be the new. They'll change the name. They'll go Mujahideen Taliban. Zelensky will one day go from being on the cover of the New York Times to enemy number one. He will be Bin Laden. Mark my words. In the late 2030s, he will be Bin Laden.
And we will have created him just like we created ISIS.
And we'll go to war for 20 years.
20 more. Yeah, and then when we leave, we'll leave all the equipment because we didn't need it anyway.
No,
yeah. We're just there to use it up, move it, and produce more. That's the hard thing. If you produce munitions and there's no war, you're out of business. So munitions, good business. Government pays for it. We don't need no stinking balanced budget. We've got the modern monetary theory. We just print money. We're sovereign, and we'll print a $34 trillion token and we'll pay the whole sucker off.
It's what I always say is, if I go to a local loan shark and and borrow $100,000, and he's got muscle men, right? He's got some thugs that are going to come make the payment. Well, through this podcast, I've befriended a lot of Delta Force operators. What if I hire the Delta Force operators with the money what are you going to do? You going to roll up on me? No, you're not. I took your money and I built your downfall. That's what we've been doing. It's genius, but it's evil. Sorry, I'll stop interrupting.
Well, no, you're not interrupting. This is a great narrative and a great dialogue. And
awesome.
This is what I want. I mean, it's much better to have a conversation.
Okay, yeah.
We create these evil in order to create the war, in order to make the money, and the bankers are happy to finance it, and so therefore it's good for business, it's good for the economy. And by the way, you get to kill millions of people you didn't care about anyway, because they're pretty much useless. They're human beings. They're useless. They're like
useless
eaters, and they weren't helping us very much with our schemes. So therefore, in the Ukrainian situation, finally Russia just gets tired of it, because these two provinces were part of the Russian Federation. The people speak Russian. You got a bunch of neo-Nazis coming in, and they're doing their new version of genocide. They're killing the Russian speakers. They killed all the Jews. There's not many Jews in Ukraine. So what are the Nazis going to do next? They're going to genocide in the next group of people they don't like, which is the Russians in the eastern part of Ukraine. And Putin one day just gets tired of it. He keeps trying to make these agreements. Finally thinks he's got an agreement, the Minsk agreements, these agreements, that agreement. And Boris Johnson, the State Department, destroyed them. And these operatives in the Maidan, which they get all these people, and the whole modus operandi of these color rebellions was they get a bunch of protesters in a square protesting, and then they start camping out in the square. They start, living in the square, and then suddenly somebody kills some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes chaos and it becomes a riot, and then they start burning down things and everything gets chaos. And that the solution to that is that Yanukovych relinquishes power and flees to Russia. And now they've won. So the protesters succeeded. Well, the people killing the protesters in the Maidan Square, so you're living the narrative that they've written. And the narrative they've written is, we got rid of that evil Russian.
Can you repeat that? My connection just dropped out for a second. You said the people living in the square, they get rid of them. There's violence, people killing, and it cut out for like 10 seconds.
And then I'm saying that the people who did the shooting to kill them were hired guns.
These are the same ones funding the protesters.
Yeah, same ones funding the protest.
Yeah.
And you think you're living in a protest, or you're protesting, you think you've got a cause. You're
people there think it's genuine. They're like, we're doing this, we're fighting for this, and it's the reality.
Freedom.
What are we seeing right now on college campuses? All these protests, and then the strong arm of the government comes in that quickly. You really don't see the problem solution. They all have matching tents.
Yeah, man. Really? And well, then the next day you kill a few of them.
Yeah,
and you can blame that on white supremacists. You can blame that on Jews. Blame it on anybody who you're targeting for elimination. Although the shooters are hired guns. You've hired them to shoot the people that you've got to end the protest. Who think they're doing good.
Have you read the Jungle by Upton Sinclair?
Oh yes, of course, many years ago.
Yeah, I read that last year. But just going into how every part of the animal is used,
everything's used.
It's the same thing here. It's you don't just get protesters. You don't just kill protesters. Even the useless eaters in a war, you then use them to create insurgents, and then use that to create a bleeding heart narrative. Again, they're evil, but they are very efficient. It's a corporation. Nothing goes to waste. Nothing goes to waste, right?
And everything is calculated in terms of its impact and its effect and its psychology. Because once the protesters are into what they think is protesting for freedom, we're here to save the planet because of carbon dioxide. We want to save the planet. And so these kids get to be, insanely programmed.
Self-righteous. Well, it's self-righteousness.
Yeah, and you're evil if you don't agree with them. And they scream and shout at you if you don't agree with them. And so the protesters are very agitated in their cause. But, the playwrights couldn't care less about the cause.
No.
Couldn't care less about it. They know that the earth is not being wrecked by carbon dioxide. They know it's silly science. But they also made sure these kids weren't taught any science.
They're the owners of an NFL franchise.
Yeah, right.
If they win, sure, you get like an extra 4% profit. But they're like, we got to the Super Bowl. We already won.
Yeah, it's
what jersey they're wearing.
It's the game.
Yeah, it don't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
and when they really get to be good at it, they start throwing games, making deals. Who's going to win? Which will get the most viewership?
And now extrapolate from games to something that is not just a money machine, but actually the movement of war material on the surface of the earth near natural resources. Then you start extrapolating, go from $1 billion franchise to $1 trillion franchise.
So Ukraine is resource rich, and it also is a productive area of the world in which you can grow and produce grain and other. It can be a breadbasket of can feed a lot of the world. and it does. Except that, so if you're in control of that and you control the food supply, then you can decide who eats. You want to be in control of the food supply. You want to be in control of those resources.
Mm-hmm.
This war is about gaining control of resources for the elite to exploit, not for the people to share. We don't want a new ruler in Guatemala giving land back to the people. People don't have any right to this land. And they say, well, where's human rights? It's just a story. You can't cut somebody inside. You can see the heart and tissue and brain. You don't see any human rights. You don't see God. That's just a sky fairy.
The opium of the masses. Yeah.
Okay. And so they don't believe in objective reality. They believe in whatever they want to be the masters of the world. They've self-appointed themselves to be the masters of the world. I mean, who was Hitler? He was a failed painter. He failed at art school, drifted around after World War I. Then he started going into studying the occult.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly he gains all these powers. He learns all these techniques.
Do you think their belief? Sorry to interrupt. Do you
No,
think
no.
their belief in because Annie Jacobson's book Phenomena talks a little bit about the honor nervous society, and then there's another. I think it's called Nazis and the Occult. It's another book about all these things
Yes.
studying. Do you think that they truly believe in a satanic force, or is it more of a like a credo that it's a philosophy?
No, they worship evil.
Yeah,
They
the most
worship
ruthless
evil.
way to win is just to not care.
They believe that that Satan rules Earth. And so if you want to win on Earth, praise Satan because he's in charge. And all these other people believe in all these good things. They're just fools because that's weak.
But Satan won't backstab us, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, Satan's. We
The
can trust
literal
Satan.
devil, the literal devil. Don't
We can
worry.
trust. We can
He's not gonna
trust
throw you
Satan.
under the bus. He's not gonna throw you under the bus.
No, he's a good guy.
Yeah. It's always
He's
it's,
on.
it's always like when you when you hear the stories about like the top Nazis selling each other out, and you're like,
Oh,
man, these guys didn't have each other's back. It's like they're Nazis.
yeah. What do you expect?
Lying. Al Capone committed tax fraud. And he murdered dozens of cops. What, you're surprised at that? You're going to be surprised when you set up a technocratic dystopian hell and Satan doesn't hold up his end of the bargain?
I mean, look. So we are create the. I got look. If I had been alive at that time, and I would have gone over to Germany, would have tried to say to Hitler, "Now, Mr. Hitler, why don't we kill 5 or 6 of them?" And do it very publicly and say, we've solved this problem.
Mm.
You killed the Jews.
Yeah.
And then I'll buy the rest of them. Because I want the gene pool, I want the souls, I want the lives. I'll take them off your hands. How much do you want? Now I might have been able to get a deal.
You think so? Or do you think he was a true believer? It wasn't just that's what a sleazy politician would go, I killed 5, I solved the problem. Is he a true believer?
Well, that's the problem, is that he's driven by evil. And the evil demands the killing. It demands the killing. It's a compulsion for the killing. It's obsession.
Sacrifice.
Ultimately sacrifice. Ultimately kill the babies, which is all the let's have more abortion. Yeah. Let's have more. Well, in fact, let's kill a few live ones, and then maybe we can eat them.
Mm-hmm. This is the same. If anyone thinks that Dr. Corsi and I are going off the deep end, you can read about the finders, read about the customs and the CIA, and keep the children moving. Read about the goat heads. Read about all the matching stories of satanic ritual abuse in the 80s and 90s. There's a documentary about this chick in the UK. This young woman. She's talking about it, and they have a psychologist. She's like, these kids cannot have identical stories, and they're 5-year-olds with identical stories. If it's one person, maybe it's a bad dream. When you have 100 of them all describing the same house, and it sounds exactly like the thing from Eyes Wide Shut, it's like, it's hard. I get if you don't want to believe it. Sure, I get that too.
Well, it's this emotion. It's your whole entity becomes obsessed with evil. and you can't tolerate the good. And so therefore Hitler would have said, thank you very much, but I'm going to kill them and incinerate them and create a massive industrial structure. And to do this efficiently, I want to find the most efficient means to kill as many people as possible in a day. How many can I kill in a day? So well, it's a little hard to kill these people. First of all, they run away. We got to find them. So we got to round them up. We got to transport them. Then they're noisy and they object, and we got to herd them together into this concentration camp. And we have to feed them something, because you want to put them in gas chambers, and we got to lift the people out of the gas chambers, and we got to put them, into the crematorium. Got to burn them up. That's good. This is a lot of work, Mr. Hitler. We'll do it, industrial scale. Okay, and so the Nazis then promise everybody, well, the Allies will never bomb you. Don't worry, there's never going to be anything. We're gonna cut through Poland, then we're going to the Soviet Union, and we're going to rule the world. We'll have U-2, we'll have these rockets, and we'll have super weapons, and we'll just kill everything except for us. Well, who's going to do the killing? Well, of course, you guys are. You're now Nazis. You're a corporal. You're a general. You got a nice uniform. We had these uniforms made by
Hugo Boss.
Hugo Boss, and they look really good.
Look snappy.
You're all going to be good. You're going to be good. Nobody's going to look as good as you are. You have the best equipment, and we're just going to send you out. You're going to kill, and we'll have death squads.
And here's some meth.
And it'll be fun. Here's some meth just to keep you going.
Here's some Pervitin, SS Einsatzgruppen. Go get it.
They could fight 24 hours a day on this stuff, and they never feel it. Okay, so this is the insanity that drives it. So if we go back to Maidan and what's going on in Ukraine, so you would think anybody rational would say, now, look, Russia's got a huge position here. They control the two provinces they want. We're not going to get those. How are we going to get those back? We're going to get those back if we fight, a land war against Russia, or we fight a conventional war. But we can't fight a conventional war anymore, because Russia's fighting this war from space. They've got everything targeted. It's like a video game. They got drones. They know where everybody is, and they have long-range missiles. They can attack. Their troops don't get killed because their troops aren't in the battlefield. Not particularly unless they have to be, but we'll get defensive positions. So Russia's secure in these two. And so now what does NATO do? They say, well, we better go on a war footing, because it'll be good for our economy. And Macron says, we'll send 2,000 French troops in there. And Great Britain says, that's a good idea. We'll send some British troops in there. And we'll run a NATO war game right now all along the border with Russia. Will show Russia how coordinated we can be and how fearsome we could be. And so if I'm Putin, I'm calling up Tucker Carlson and saying, why don't you come out over here? We want to say a few things. And that is, if you guys do this, it's going to be nuclear war. So don't do this. We're not losing here. We're here. We've won. Don't do this. And what do our guys say? Say, nuclear war, that sounds good. How many people can we kill with nuclear war? And what if we have thermonuclear war? We could kill billions. We get rid of these useless people in an afternoon. They're in.
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Hey, Russia's got hypersonic weapons that take 7 seconds to get here. And so, and Putin says, we've got superiority in the weapons. You guys don't. Because these demons aren't really, they're stealing the money that should be going into manufacturing, and they've got some good weapons, but the Ukrainians don't know how to run these weapons. And the Ukrainian divisions now have been decimated. They probably lost hundreds of thousands of troops, killed by this Russian war machine, and Putin's not in any rush. So this is not World War II with Patton racing across Europe,
closing in on you. There's no shot clock.
This is like a video game.
Take your time.
you know,
And it's
and
existential for them. No
yeah,
different than the Cuban Missile Crisis was for us.
and so what is building is that, and then the narratives are, well, we have to fight Putin. Putin's coming into Europe. We have, if we don't watch out, Putin will be on the doorstep of Paris.
In the
You
same
know,
sentence, it's he is an inept leader who cannot even take Ukraine, but watch out because he's going to be in London next week.
yeah, I mean,
What?
it's insanity, and then okay, so then now okay, let's punch another button. We got this game going. So the students who we've radicalized, let's get them out in protests, and we'll start in the campus. And by the way, why do all these protests look alike?
Hmm.
This one, the 10th, is they're all alike. Okay, so then the police come in and they arrest the protesters, and there's chaos, and the protesters now start burning down buildings or moving the protests into the cities. Okay, so we had George Floyd, we had Black Lives Matter, then we had Antifa, and we had Portland, Oregon, and we're destroying the cities. And we have Black Lives Matter Boulevard painted in front of St. John's Episcopal Church across from the White House. And if Trump dares to come out with the Bible, we ridicule him. Meanwhile, in the background, Antifa is trying to burn down the church.
Mm-hmm.
But Trump is causing the riot.
Yeah.
So the
Hey,
narratives,
he
and
held
they
the he held it upside down. He's the bad guy. It's like, what about the actual people trying to
yeah,
burn
what about
down the
the
church?
church? They're the good guys. And you got Millie coming out. Millie is saying, well, I don't know whether we would go on the president invokes this law, which could, utilize the military to put down an insurrection. Well, I think these people are just expressing their rights. These people are oppressed. And by the way, I just asked my admiral over here in a dress, and he told me that he was feeling oppressed.
Those who can make you believe, what is the Voltaire? Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities.
Yes. So, I mean, that's where I'm saying that we are living into. This is the kind of reality that we've been living in since Jack Kennedy. I'm sure the CIA was operative on this from the very beginning. The intelligence agencies have been running the drug business. I mean, let's analyze these for a minute. So we want to run a drug cartel.
Mm.
We figure out we can go down and in Colombia, and we can get a lot of cocaine produced. We can pay off everybody so we don't get arrested, etc. We produce it, and we get it across the border. We start selling it, and we make money. Now there's a problem. What do we do with the money? What do we do with all this money? Well, you can't drive around big semi-trailer trucks of $100 bills. It doesn't work. You pull your truck with $100 bills up to the taco shop. You want to have lunch. You got to take some $100 bills out of the back to pay for lunch. No, we got to get this money in the banking system. We got to get this. So we'll set up money changing stations all over Mexico, where they can cash checks and you can send money to them from their relatives who are in the United States. And by the way, every night we'll come in and we'll run $500 million through the bank. Okay, so I'm HSBC, 2011. I say, well, we got a lot of customers here who aren't with us anymore, but we've got their names and we've got their social security numbers. Let's create accounts. Let's run millions of dollars through it. And let's close that account with zero balance. So nothing has to be reported on it. And therefore, the money can go where we want it to go. Now, of course, the Treasury is monitoring this, the NSA is monitoring it, the CIA is monitoring it. In fact, they're actually running it.
Well, yeah, yeah. I investigated myself, and yeah, I'm good. No, I didn't do it.
Yeah, I did do it.
Yeah,
Booby.
yeah.
Okay, so we got this disorder at the border, and all these children are getting separated from their parents, and they're coming across alone. They're told, just get to the United States. So let's pick them up and put them in sex slavery. Well, you don't think the CIA is watching this, or you don't think that they're running it? So therefore, Border Patrol, you guys might want to do your jobs, but I think you should go over there and take care of them, the ones who need all the help in the centers were parking them in because they need to be fed, they need to be sleeping, they need to be taken care of. So your job is not to apprehend them and send them back, but to go over there and take care of them. We'll handle the border, thank you. Well, how are you going to handle the border? Well, we're going to open it because a lot easier just to open it. And then if a few children get missing, who's going to miss them? They weren't attached to anybody anyway. So we now have our supply of sex slaves, which again is demonic. And the children go through huge abuse and suffering. Who cares? At least let them stay alive, you know?
And I've had on Basil Baz, former CIA paramilitary officer, who in the 90s, after a career, said he'd had enough of overthrowing small countries. And he, for 34 years now, he's been running ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. And he uses all of his skills and his contacts and does what the federal authorities won't do. And it's exactly what you're saying. He's like, there's nothing more demonic. He's like, there is no
Sound of Freedom. The movie is a great movie.
Oh yeah, no, but that's he in real life.
In real life, I know.
Yeah.
In real life,
Yeah.
well, the guy that was real life. Sound of Freedom was real life.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, yeah.
All real life. I mean, real life is, and so what happens is their goal is to destroy the nuclear family. They have to get rid of God, and the mainstream media. So the CIA, okay, so you get a legitimate reporter, he wants to report legitimate news. And so the CIA comes in and says, they don't go to see the reporter, they go to see the guy who owns the newspaper, or the chain that owns the newspaper, or the syndicate that owns the newspaper, or the investors that own the newspaper. And they say, this reporter down here is endangering national security. We need to protect our methods. We're protecting this country. He's going to compromise what we do, so we can't let him do it. Okay, well, then we won't publish that story. What should we say? Well, don't say anything or publish this story. And we greatly appreciate it if you do it. And by the way, that audit that we were going to conduct on the newspaper has now been suspended. We're not going to go through your taxes. We're not going to look through all the. We had a whole army ready to come in here to make sure you were running this newspaper correctly, and I'm sure you were. But I don't think we need to do that today. Okay, so, the powers that be, and by the way, we're not going to begin investigating your investors either.
Yeah, we're not going to look into your internet history. We're
Not
not going to worry.
internet.
We're not going to worry about those DWIs you got. Not going to worry about that underage, call girl you were seeing in LA. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about any of that.
Yeah,
it could be a problem at a future date, but right now it's not.
But how about if we just let you run your newspaper? And by the way, do you need anything from us? We're here to help. You need a few $100,000? Well, we can arrange that. Okay, so, and by the way, the NSA collects every data, every keystroke, every telephone call, everything. They'd love to create everything said. Oh, just put this Alexa in your house. So you can say, Alexa, start my car. Okay, well, so Alexa did it.
I wonder how many cars you just started from live listeners.
Yeah, I wonder how many cars. So I probably started a few. What was Alexa listening? Or did it just get voice activated? No, it's listening 100% of the time. Well, is that being recorded? No, that's not being. Your privacy is being respected. Okay, so we collect data on everybody about everything. And then we say, well, we don't use it because we've got the FISA law that protects you. And except that we also control the FISA judges and the FISA process. And as we saw in the Russian collusion investigation, it was abused and probably massively abused. And the CIA decides what to tell the president. By the way, the president thinks he's running the country. That's got to be, viewed with some amusement at the CIA headquarters, because all this drug money, they've got huge amounts of money to do whatever they want to do. And by the way, they're in control of all the information. You're not. And so they'll brief you the way they want you to play your role in this play.
They'll shape the they'll shape how they want you to see the world.
And when they do that, they're going to give you your narrative, and you're not going to realize you're in a Truman Show. You're going to think these are the real actors with the real deal, and you're going to go along willingly. Well, this is the nature, and we can do this over with any number of things. We could do this with, take Lumumba in Africa, DM in
Vietnam.
Vietnam. It just goes on and on and on. Mossadegh in Iran, Saddam Hussein in Iraq. The John McCain and John Kerry over cultivating the guys who created ISIS, telling Congress that we need the moderate terrorists to balance the radical terrorists. So why don't we create the moderate terrorists who are on our side?
Operation Sycamore Timber in 2011.
And they become ISIS. And they become, Baghdadi gets a hold of them. And then they start fighting in Fallujah. Well, okay. And now we have, I guess we're going to have to get rid of ISIS. Well, didn't you guys create ISIS? Well, we did, but now we need to get rid of them. Well, why did you create them? Now we need to get rid of them. Well, we created them to cause trouble, and then we're going to get rid of them to cause more trouble, do more destabilization. It was only about destabilization. It was never about radical Islam. They just happened to be good change agents.
Useful idiots.
Or as Bezmenov, one of the Russian defectors came, he said, this is all down to a science. You've got
active measures,
destabilization, then you've got
demoralization,
moralization,
normalization, and then enroll the tanks.
And then he had the whole thing. And by the end of it, the people will give you the power to solve the problem. And then you have a little period of normalization where everybody feels, oh, hey, this is okay now. This is great. We won. And then you start it over again.
It's working out.
And so
you slowly increase the dumbbells.
Until we break this pattern, until people begin to, I'm calling this the Great Awakening series. The third volume will be on transhumanism, artificial intelligence, and perpetual life extinction. Extension. They think that they can become immortal.
Ray Kurzweil.
That they can become super intelligent, merged with computers. And I think, Bill Gates would be happy if he just became computer code, became immortal as computer code. He just run inside a computer, as long as he could have consciousness, whatever that would mean. So they make themselves into machines. They make themselves into these imagined superhuman entities that are going to live forever. And the machines are going to be so intelligent, it will do all the work, but yet serve their needs. And they can just have unlimited sex or whatever makes them happy. And they have all the resources of the world for themselves. So the resources of the world are not going to be exhausted. Of course, they never were going to be exhausted. And God's gone. So we don't have to worry about nasty, people saying we're doing something bad or wrong or criticizing us. We're the masters of the world. We're in charge. We are the champions. We are the victors. We are the winners. You can do a little Bohemian Rhapsody. We'll play that every night before we go to bed to reassure ourselves that we're in charge. And so the whole insanity of this vision is that it's hard because it's satanic. And it goes back to the Garden of Eden. God didn't want you to eat that fruit because God did not want you to know what God knows. And by the way, what God knows isn't that much worth knowing because he made a mess of this place. So eat the fruit, become like God, and then I'll tell you how we make this place work. Because I'm really in charge here. And so just follow my instructions and everything will be good. Okay, and like you pointed out to begin with, the instructions all have to do with death, war, disease, 4 horsemen of the apocalypse riding all the time with little occasional interludes of peace, tranquility. So we have, World War One, we've got, and then World War Two, and then Korea, and then Vietnam, and then all these others, Iraq. We can't even remember how many wars we've been in. Iraq, was that 1991 or was that 1990, whatever it was? What was this, because of the Twin Towers, or was this because of weapons of mass destruction, or were those not the same?
Was it ISIS or was it Al Qaeda or was it the Mujahideen or is it Boko Haram or
Is it Hamas,
is
or is
it
it
Grenada or is it
Hezbollah?
Taiwan? Is it the Azovs or is it Wagner? Is it
Yeah. Is it vanilla or chocolate or strawberry? They're all the same. They're ice cream.
yeah, the ice cream guy doesn't care. He's like, choose one, whatever you want.
Choose
You put it
whatever
on
you
a,
want.
you want it, I got it. Put it on a cone.
48 flavors, 72 flavors.
Whatever you need.
We got genders. How many genders do you want?
What do you want? You want a genocide in Darfur? Do you want what do you
What
want?
do
You
you
want
what do
bodies
you
in the
want?
West Bank? What do you want? I got it.
Yeah, we got plenty of genders here. What's your choice today? Do you want male or female? How do you want them to perform? Is this animal or is this human? Is this past life or current life? You tell us what it is.
I mean,
We'll produce the play for you.
in
We run the whorehouse. Just tell us what you want.
historically it's like there's like an amnesia to where like as years go by you realize the positions have changed, but now it's getting crazier because at the same time we're funding the Azov battalion of neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
We're cracking down on anti-Semitism and sending them, I mean, it's like
And
the contradictions are flowing so freely now.
and by the way, we're shutting down the Russian Orthodox Church in the part of Ukraine that Zelensky controls. And by the way, he's just an actor.
Yeah.
He's just reading his line. And Biden, well, he's a little bit senile and a little bit mentally dementia, and so therefore we can't prosecute him because he's not mentally competent. But then again, we can't prosecute him because he's also a CIA operative. We don't want that known. We don't want that investigated. We don't want the public to catch on to that. We want the public to think that he's corrupt, but it's just Joe. He's just an average guy, and he's got neat aviator glasses. So why would you care? He might sniff little girls' hair. That's a little peculiar, but he likes children. Well, this guy might be a pedophile. No, he's just minor attracted.
Mm.
So we're going to change the language now. We're going to normalize all of our perversions and to make them sound as if they're normal. And then you won't be able to tell the difference between what's normal and what's not normal. And if you do not celebrate my vision of myself, you're committing a microaggression against me. And so that you don't have a right to do that. You're the aggressor. You don't accept that my gender is that of a mongoose transsexual from past life. If you don't accept that, you're attacking my identity. Your identity is a little bit messed up. Why do we have to accept this as normal? If you want to have that identity, go ahead. But that we have to celebrate it, we have to normalize it, we have to teach it, we have to put it for everybody. No, not my kid. You're not getting my kid to do that. Okay, so at some point or other, there has to be an awakening. If there isn't an awakening, they'll win. Now, the reason this is a haunted house is because all their ideas are bad. The electric cars don't work. Can't resell the batteries. If you like to resell your car, yes, but the battery is not guaranteed on resale. Well, let's replace it. Well, that's going to cost $23,000 to replace the battery so you can sell the car. How much can you sell the car for with a new battery in it? Maybe $15,000. Hey, it's better than the loss. So I got to put $23,000 in This car that I had was expensive to begin with, to make 15,000. By the way, it doesn't recharge in the cold in the winter because it's cold. Batteries don't recharge in the cold. Well, so don't drive it in the winter. Recharge it in your garage. What if I'm traveling 600 miles? I don't have a garage. Well, you better find someplace to charge it at night. Well, there's no inside place for me to charge it at night. Well, I guess you better make that trip in 3 long stages and wait for summer. None of their ideas work. Let's have DEI, which is really DIE. So, okay, we want diversity. So now, how diverse do we have to be? So we don't want any whites. So they're out because we don't have to worry. Their whites, their identity doesn't count. We've got one black, one red, one yellow, one we can't figure out. How many more do we need? Because these skin colors all have gradations. Do we need every gradation, or can we stick with the major categories? No, you gotta have every gradation. Okay, so we got all these gradations, and now how about they have to be diverse sexually? So we can't have male and female. That's a duality. It's fault. We don't deal in binaries. We're non-binary. So okay, how many? So we got transgenders. Well, how many different kind transgender animal? We've got so we got as many transgenders as we got diverse skin colors. So my advisory board consists of 14 million people, and they're going to make a decision as to how this plant is run. And by the way, we don't have here any intelligence tests or competent tests, because all these people get an equal chance. They're all included, so anybody can make the airplane. Well, the doors might fall off. Well, that wasn't our concern. Now you want to impose your standards upon us. These things work. And then we can't be DEI. We're going to have to select. Now you're going to want us to have standardized tests in the grade schools. We don't do that.
That's you white supremacist bigot.
Racist. That's racist.
Not only do you not celebrate that I like children, but you also want doors on your planes. You are something else. You are something else.
Yeah. You expect the police to protect you?
You are I can't believe you. I can't believe you. Not only did you not celebrate that I'm a communist witch, but you don't want your plane to rapidly depressurize at 40,000 feet. Are you Hitler?
Yeah. Mossad killed everybody. Mossad killed Kennedy. Mossad killed George Washington. Mossad killed Lincoln. Mossad killed everybody.
They put the rover on the moon. I knew it.
Yeah, that's right. And they're evil. They've got nuclear weapons. They're Jews. You know, so they look funny. They pray funny. They eat funny. We gotta get rid of them. You know, the consequences of this kind of thinking are so negative that it is self-defeating. As it succeeds, it destroys itself. It's a parasite. It has to kill the host in which it lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then it weakens itself in the process, and there's no new host. It can't live without destruction. If you took the Middle East, you applied hydroponics, you could have 3 growing seasons a year. You could feed the world out of the desert. And the Jews proved that. You could do all kinds of technical developments. We could make Earth thrive for twice as many people. There's no limit really to how many. The limit to Earth's population would be naturally controlled, because people would not have as many children. Our children would be not dying at childbirth, who wouldn't have diseases. Instead of having pharmaceuticals that kill you, we could actually have natural substances that heal you. We could explore all this. We could make this place work. You could have voting on the blockchain, which would mean it would be impossible to do vote stealing. You know, you could have a lot of these technologies that benefit people and don't surveil them, because You could design the technologies so that, the information that is in these is more blockchain controlled, or in one way or another not able to be captured and held the way that these modern computers can do it, or these surveillance instruments can do it. The hard thing is to keep human beings from taking technology and applying it to the extreme for evil purposes, which is the easier thing to do. So I'm going to need to wrap this up given time
No,
constraints.
you just got me thinking, man, what if as the election got closer, Elon just like pinned a poll to the top of his profile and said, "Who are you voting for?" By the way, brand new. This is secured by blockchain. That would be, what do you
Yeah.
do if it's secure and it's like 91% Trump? You do it like the
Well,
day before the election. Don't give him a heads up.
something like that should be done, and something like that can counter this. But I still haven't decided which side Elon's
Yeah,
on.
well, that comes down to, can he do it? He absolutely can. Will he? That will be the, I think, proof in the pudding.
If you could do something that the internet could be secured by the blockchain, so all the data that goes on the internet is blockchain distributed, so you couldn't erase it, you couldn't make it go away, couldn't censor it. We're going to have to design the future technologies anticipating their demonic use. They have to be designed so they cannot be used demonically. And there are structures like the blockchain which make it impossible to do some of the things that this evil cabal wants to do. Okay, and combining themselves with computers, everybody living in the metaverse is another idea that doesn't work. None of their ideas work, because ultimately they self-destruct. And that's what's going to happen again. But as you say, go back to the haunted house, God has already won. God knows these people will self-destruct. They already have self-destructed. But the consequences of their self-destruction can be catastrophic in terms of the number of lives that are lost, the number of people that are harmed. World War II, much more casualties than World War I worldwide, measured in the millions. And now World War III would be measured in the billions. And I'm not sure what the judgment of God is going to entail this time, because a lot of people have abandoned the idea of God on massive scales. And, that's again, have got consequences. This place has consequences to behavior. And so therefore, we will go through a judgment of God. But God does win. God, if you read Revelations, nations disappear. There's a lot of horrible things that are going to happen. And I don't think that's entirely avoidable. But evil doesn't win. Evil loses. Just like Hitler lost World War II, and they defeat themselves.
And it's like what you said about the Kennedy assassination, the forensic autopsy evidence, right? I mean, a memo can be faked, a memo can be burned, and the analogy I always use is like the moon landing. Did it happen? Did it not? Was it faked? Ultimately, given enough decades, like we're seeing now, it's like India's lunar orbiter. It's like, there it is. They
There it
find the
is.
tracks, and it's like, at a certain point, and it can take a while. At a certain point, the objective reality, right? No memo matters if you're looking at the autopsy of JFK and you're doing, high resolution magnetic scans, technologies that didn't exist at the time that the bad guys couldn't have predicted. Eventually, the truth, it's unavoidable.
Or you get somebody genius like Dr. Mantic, my co-author, who brings in an optical densitometer, which is a very simple instrument, And he spends hours and hours and hours taking measurements of how the light comes through the X-rays, millimeter by millimeter, sometimes, a tenth of a millimeter by a tenth of a millimeter. And he analyzes the data, and he says these are all forged because they're too bright. There's objects in them that aren't real. By the way, you can see the two headshots from the front. So now he's got it locked in, because once you've seen it, you know you were lied to.
Mm.
And so that's biblically, the truth does out. And that's in the nature of our reality. Truth does out.
It's not even that the truth eventually wins. It's just that you can't. The truth isn't winning or losing. The truth just is.
It's
Eventually,
already it's
eventually, the
already
makeup all gets washed off.
it's already won.
It's just what it is. It's
Yeah.
the Soviet Union can say there is no accident at Chernobyl. Eventually, somebody in like Spain is like, why is there strontium-90 in the clouds?
Yeah.
Eventually, you can't track every atom. It eventually they can try and they can do a good job, but it does win. But Dr. Corsi, I will keep you for hours if you don't rein me in.
Well,
So
no,
I'm
I
I'm gonna let
think
I'm gonna let you run because I know we gotta wrap it up.
I'm up against the time crunch, but I'll come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, no, I'll send you an email right after this and we'll schedule it again. I'm enjoying these very much.
Well, this is how the access to what I've written in these books, because the books are the next level of really understanding it,
Mm,
and this is prepares you to understand it,
mm,
and then you'll go through the effort to. I wrote these books not to be simple, but to be comprehensive, to be undeniable. I'm writing books right now that are just irrefutable. And the JFK book is in that category. So are these two on the truth about energy, global warming, and climate change. One about neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy. And they're very, they have a lot of depth to them. But if you go through the depth and you get it, you'll perceive in a fundamentally different way, which is more correctly, I think, the way this place was created to perceive, and as hard as God.
mm. And God does win, or God has won. You're in the haunted house. Doesn't mean it's not scary. It's definitely scary. It's definitely scary. In the same way you look back at a haunted house now and go, I was scared of that. You will be in the kingdom of heaven. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, remember when we thought the demons were going to win? Like, oh, so stupid. You look back, you're like, I was 5. I'm like, I was 30 at the time. I thought the demons were going to win. They were doing the whole thing. And I had no idea that they were, just completely impotent.
Yeah, they were insane.
Yeah. Those demons, we'll look at it like Scooby Doo. We'll be like,
Yeah,
you're not a demon. You're a loser. You take the mask off.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
That's
Dr.
right.
Corsi, let's wrap this up. Guys, please go in the description. Please go grab the books. Please go visit his website, all that good stuff. I will send this to you. I'll email this to you, and I'll schedule another one with you. And any closing thoughts? I know I just interrupted you. I
No,
apologize.
it's a continuing discussion.
Beautiful. I
It's
enjoy it,
this.
man. I genuinely enjoy it. It's fun.
Well, I enjoy it too. So thank you, Tom.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your optimism. Thank you for your bravery. And yeah, above all else, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'll
Thank
be back.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, guys.
Yep. God
God's
bless.
already won. It's already over. Much love, everybody.